Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Thank you, Les Ciancord. And first of all, thank you to Deputy Healy and his colleagues for tabling this very important motion, allowing us to have what is a crucial debate. Sinn Féin will be fully supporting the motion, and while we may have some differences on some of the detail of the policy proposals, we fully support the intention behind all of them. Minister, last Friday the latest homeless figures were published, and as you know, a record number of people, 15,378 people, including 4,653 children in emergency accommodation funded by your department. Of course, you also know that's not the true level of homelessness. It doesn't include women and children in TUSLA-funded domestic violence shelters. It doesn't include men and women in religious institution-funded homeless shelters not in receipt of state funding. It doesn't include rough sleepers, and it doesn't include all of those people with refugee status, with subsidiary protection or leave to remain, trapped in direct provision, essentially using it as homelessness emergency accommodation. The real figure is now in excess of 20,000. And what's really important about today's motion is the call for the government to have an emergency response. And not only are we not getting that, but in fact you're doing things to make things worse. On Monday, you made a number of very important announcements. You announced the capital allocations for social housing acquisitions, including tenant in situ. That represents an actual cut on the money that was spent by local authorities on acquisitions, including tenant in situ last year. And when we finally get the figures from you by way of parliamentary question, we'll be able to definitively prove that. But Dublin City Council are already telling their elected members that the total acquisitions allocation you have given them for this year is 22 million less than last year, the local authority with the highest levels of homelessness. To add to that, and I agree with other colleagues, the new restrictions that you've introduced in the circular, you use the phrase focused and targeted. That means less people will get it. But in particular, the removal of refurbishment costs, the 2-year rule, and the retrospective application of the new rules to many of the pending applications from last year will mean people who would have otherwise got access to this vital homeless prevention support won't. I've already been contacted by 2 households, a young woman in Dublin City, 3 children, care for her father. Her tenancy with her landlord is less than 2 years old, and she's been told by Dublin City Council that she is no longer eligible. I was contacted yesterday, a very distressing email from a pensioner couple in Cork who were very advanced through their tenant in purchase application, but now because refurbishment costs are excluded and they weren't sale closed, they have been notified by Cork County Council that can no longer proceed. A young woman with 3 children, 2 elderly pensioners in their 70s, as a consequence of your decision, they are now at risk of homelessness. What's also very concerning is the funding is going to run out. There are hundreds of pending applications across the state, 70 in my own local authority, 70 plus in Dublin City, 100 or more in Limerick City and County from last year. So if you provided less funds for this year, after the overhang is gone, even if notices of termination, eviction notices dip slightly this year, money will run out before the year's end and more people will become homeless. What I'm also very concerned about, Minister, is your capital funding announcements for social housing. I welcome every extra cent of money provided for government by social and affordable housing. I welcome every additional social or affordable home funded by the state. But when the revised estimates was published in December, there was a 540 million shortfall between capital allocation for social and affordable housing this year and the outturn for last year. You have closed some of that gap, but you have not provided clarity on whether you're going to close all of that gap and significantly increase the funding. And when I listened to you on Morning Ireland and you talked about figures of 3.6 billion and 3.8 billion, you are being deliberately disingenuous, because that is not capital spending, as you know from your programme heads for social and affordable housing. That is the totality of capital spending in your department for social, affordable and private housing, as well as for grants, upgrades and improvements. What I want to know is, what is the total additional spend for social and affordable housing by programme subhead for this year? Publish that and put the issue to bed once and for all. I'd also like to strongly support the inclusion of defective block in this motion. 2 urgent actions you need to take, and you need to take them now. 1, you need to amend the underpinning legislation for the defective block scheme to allow people who are getting tenders from their builders now to be able to avail of the most up-to-date SCSI costings, not those at the time of the grant application. And you need to get the finger out on the emergency fire safety funding to deal with apartments with Celtic Tiger era defects. It's 2 years and 3 months since Cabinet agreed that scheme. It's a year and 3 months since that scheme opened, and as you know, because you've met the affected families in Park West, not a single cent has been spent. We need an emergency response. That is not what we've got so far from you over the last 11 weeks.
Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.